Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Hopefully you found that webinar and session about how to make your application go from good to great useful. And now we will continue with the questions and answers. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A box and we'll use this part of the session to answer them. As was said, I will answer some of them live, and I've got colleagues in the background who will be typing to some of the other answers. So to start, the first question that we have is, are the personal statement words limited, as in the word limit fixed, or are they a guide? They are a guide, but we would recommend people to maximize the use of the 250 words that you do have. There is a limit to 250 words, and this is a chance for you to tell us something about yourself that we can't see in the rest of your application. So something that is not in your CV or your post-MBA plan, and something that tells us maybe your motivations or why Oxford or whatever you see fit to use for the personal statements section. The next question is whether we take the TOEFL My Best score. There is also the one skill retake for the IELTS test, and we do not accept either of these tests. So if you are down on a component or you have just missed out on getting the minimum scores that is required, we will need you to retake the whole test and get those minimums in all of the sections as well as the overall scores. Someone has asked, will we get the recording of this session? Yes, all of those of you that have signed up today will also get a recording of this session. Timings of this aren't exact, but you should get one in the next week or so. Please email us on oxfordmba@sbs.ox.ac.uk. My colleague has put that email address in the chat. If you do not receive this in the next couple of weeks and you'd like a copy, please email us and we'll make sure that you have a copy of this recording. The next question that we have is, one second, recommendation letters. So this question says, in my case, my former manager recently resigned, but knows me best. Although she no longer has an email for the company that they was working for, she managed me for 3 years. My new manager does not know me that well. How should I proceed in this situation? So yes, ideally, we need the references to have a professional email address, but we understand that sometimes in some such situations, such as this, someone doesn't have access, or in some companies, there is a firewall that might prevent us from our emails getting through. In this case, they can use a personal email address. That's absolutely fine, but they need to note in their recommendation letter why this is the case. So maybe if they put a line at the beginning saying, hello, I am using my personal email address due to X circumstance, we will be able to accept this. If this is a problem, we will reach out to you, we will email you and ask for some confirmation in some way to make sure that this is a legitimate recommendation letter. Hopefully that answers that question, but if you want any more information, write another question or send us an email, we'll be able to confirm for you. In what format should we submit the career plan? So there is a section in the application where you put your career plan. There is a post-MBA plan section in the application, which is prompted by questions such as, what is your plan post-MBA? Do you have a plan B, etc. So it's quite clear in the application where you would put this, and you would just write it out in like an essay, in the essay form. There is no limit to this section. There's no minimums or maximums. So make sure that you put what it is that you need. Okay, the next question is, by the time of application, I'll have about 2.5 years of work experience. Would I be at a disadvantage? Could you share what aspects I should focus on to strengthen my application with this level of experience? So 2 years is the minimum. I believe this year we have 6 years is the average amount of work experience that we have. However, if you do have two years, you're more than welcome to apply. And this is very dependent on what your 2 years of experience looks like. So maybe if you're a person who in their career in these 2 years has maybe managed budgets, they've taken on a team, they've had some sort of progression, such as a promotion, this would be the kind of experience that would be looking for. If you feel that you're still quite junior in your career and you haven't necessarily had any time to take on leadership skills or responsibilities, then maybe it's worth maybe taking a year or two until you have some further experience before applying, and that would put you in a stronger position. But some people within the first 2 years of their career or in their most recent 2 years, they do have this experience. So this is completely dependent on what experiences you have and whether this aligns with the timing for starting an MBA. Okay, the next question is regarding the academic English requirement. My undergraduate is taught and exams are conducted in English. My transcript states the same. Do I still need to get a letter from my college, or will that suffice? You would need to get a letter from your college confirming that the course was taught in English to ensure. However, it is key to note that to be eligible for the academic English waiver, you need to have graduated within 2 years of starting the program. For a lot of people who are starting an MBA, this wouldn't be the case. You've probably been out of education for a little while. If that's the case, I would recommend looking at whether you're eligible for a professional waiver. This is a letter that you would upload if you work in English on a daily basis, using the 4 components of English: reading, writing, speaking, and listening, and you'd upload a document explaining how you use these. If you don't have this experience and you graduated, even if it wasn't English over 2 years ago, you will need to sit an IELTS or a TOEFL English language test. Someone has asked, is it okay to submit my application while I still have not taken the GMAT yet, but test is scheduled online? So you can start your application. You can also submit your application, but it will be incomplete until you have a GMAT or GRE score. This is a mandatory requirement for the application, so you need this to have a full application. But you can start it, and as soon as you do have that test result, you can upload that test result, and then we can process you whenever, whatever deadline that comes under. Hopefully that answers that question. Okay, the next question is, please let me know where I can find more information about the online assessment and preparing for the same. Okay, so we do have an FAQs page on our website, which goes into quite a lot of detail about all the parts of the application. The online assessment will be 3 questions. There'll be competency-based questions, such as tell me a time when, can you give me an example of this X situation? You can find, my colleague has actually put the FAQs in the chat, so everyone can follow that link if you'd like to. But essentially, you will have about 30 seconds to think of your answer and a minute and a half to answer the question. There is practice questions that you can do before you do the real thing, so you can get used to the format and have the timing and have a little bit of a practice before you do the real thing. If you have any specific questions about the online assessment, feel free to ask or reach out to us via email, and we'll be able to confirm any worries that you may have. Okay, someone has asked, will my application be considered in respect to other applications of English-speaking candidates? I'm not from an English-speaking country and planning to submit an English waiver as I've been working 6 years where I use. Okay, so it sounds like this person is from a non-English speaking country but uses English every day at work. So this is a perfect example of someone who is eligible for the professional waiver. If this is something that is relevant to you and you use English every day, you would need to upload a document explaining what kind of examples. Maybe you do meetings in English, communication such as email is done over English, you meet with clients in English, etc. There is a template that is on our FAQs page to show you what kind of things you need to put in that waiver. If there's any issues with the waiver that you upload, don't worry, we will reach out and ask you maybe to clarify something, or in rare circumstances, if your waiver is not applicable, we'll ask you to do an English language test. But as long as you can explain how you use English in work, this will be absolutely fine. What is the average oldest age and work experience of the cohort? I'm not sure what it means average oldest age, but the average age for the MBA students is around 29 years old, and the average work experience is about 5 to 6 years. Of course, these are averages, so we do have the extremes on either side, such as people that have 2 years experience or someone who might have 10 years experience. Same way we might have someone who's like 24 years of age. We have some people that are in their late 30s or even early 40s on the program. It's not really about age, it's more about your experience or if the MBA is right for you and for your career goals. I am from India. However, I did my 4 year undergrad in the US. I graduated more than 2 years ago. Well, I need to take my IELTS. Yes, if you also don't work in English on a day-to-day basis, so you don't qualify for a professional waiver, and you graduated more than 2 years ago in English, you will need to take an IELTS or TOEFL test. Yes. Thanks for the session. How to best position myself to get a scholarship. So this question is dependent on your circumstances. We have a scholarships page on our website as well. This lists the scholarships and explains how you're eligible for them, what the criteria is for applying for them. Some of the scholarships that we have, you're automatically considered for by just applying. So we look at every person who applies and sees if they're suitable for the scholarships. However, some of the bigger scholarships and more notable scholarships do have extra criteria for applying. So that might be an interview or there's an essay. This will be clearly outlaid on the website. Earlier is better for scholarships. Of course, as we go through the year, more scholarships are taken, more places are taken on the course, so it does get more competitive as we go through the year. We always recommend people to apply by January, the January deadline, that's stage 4 this year, if you are keen to get a scholarship. If this is the case, make sure that you are putting your best foot forward, putting the best application forward. A lot of the scholarships are merit-based, so that means they're looking for high academics, but it depends on the scholarship. Some of them are just for women, maybe they're from certain industries. So just look at what they're looking for and align yourself and do the preparation that is necessary for the scholarships. If you have any specific questions on that, do email us and we'll be able to help you if you have some questions on if you've got one in mind. Okay, someone has asked, how would I book an in-person interview in Dubai? So how our interviews work, just to give an overview, the majority of our interviews are done online over Zoom. However, we do throughout the year go to different places, often including Dubai. It can change a little year by year. When you are selected for, or if you are selected for interview, you will get an interview portal where you get to choose your interviews. If there are online and in-person slots available, you'll be able to see that on your portal and you will be able to book them. Usually, the majority of the in-person interviews are done in stage 4 because that's our biggest stage. So keep a lookout on our website where they should be advertised, but you'll also know in advance whether or not we are interviewing in a location where you'll be. For each stage, what is the expected response time when you are invited for an interview and offer? On our website, there are deadlines, the deadlines for the stages, and there's also the offer date on when you can expect to hear back. And the interview, of course, will fit between these 2 times. There is usually about a 6 to 7 week gap between applying the application deadline and when you would receive an offer. If you want specific dates for a certain stage, reach out to us by email and this may be something that we can answer. What are the biggest differences between round 1, round 2, and round 3, specifically in regards to scholarships or visa considerations for international students? I wouldn't say there's any difference between those rounds for visa considerations. This is something we normally start working on from April. So regards to all the stages up to January, there isn't really any difference for the visas. In regards to scholarships, it's always, like I said earlier, better to be earlier, although I would say the differences between round 1, 2, and 3 aren't that significant. So if your application isn't quite ready by stage 1, but you're, I don't know, worrying because you think you could do something a little bit better or you could get a better reference, I would recommend just to apply to the next stage and put your strongest application forwards. However, generally speaking, it gets much more competitive after stage 4. So from stage 4 onwards is when it's the most competitive for scholarships. Otherwise, when's ready for you is probably the best time. Next question. Hi, Stephanie. Thank you for answering. Regarding CV, I am over 10 years experience. Showing career progression on CV might be difficult for me with limited space. How do you suggest me to approach the CV as it needs to contain other important elements? I think it's important when you're putting your CV together that you're not just describing your role, but you're talking about the achievements that you have made in that role and just highlighting what it is that you've done specifically in that role. So maybe that's a certain budget or project or team that you can see. Sorry, 1 second. Sorry about that. Yes, so I make sure that you are using your experiences that really matter, that show that what you've achieved, instead of getting into the trap of just describing what your role is. A lot of the time, it's quite obvious what your role is from the title, so we don't necessarily need a description of what it is that you do, and focus on what it is that you've achieved, and hopefully you can use that to filter down the bullet points for each role. If you want some specific advice on your CV, email it over to us on the Oxford MBA email, and hopefully we will have room to be able to review that for you and have a little look. This is dependent on the time that the team has, but there is absolutely no harm in emailing it over to us and we can have a quick look for you. Is there significant value in attending the Oxford Open Day before submitting my application? This is completely dependent on you. So maybe if you just want some more information about Oxford in general, if you want to see the school before you make the decision, it wouldn't really necessarily make any difference to us on our side. This is more about you knowing that Oxford is the place that you want to be. It aligns with your goals. It's somewhere that you want to live. So visiting Oxford is good for your decision making, that Oxford is the right place for you. If you've got any questions and you want to meet with people in the school and different stakeholders and speak to the recruitment and admissions team in person, there's definitely a lot of value from attending an open day. You get to ask and get questions answered from students who are here. So if you're able to come to an open day, I would definitely recommend it. I don't think it's not going to necessarily benefit your application on our side, but it might help you look at a little bit more about what we're looking for and what the school can offer you. For this program, are all the classes in person? Yes, this is a totally in-person MBA. All the classes will take place in the business school, although you can take part in other activities, societies, clubs with the wider university. But for the actual MBA program, everything will be in person in the business school. Yes. Are there any implications to using AI in the application? This is a really good question. And of course, something that we need to think of more as AI is becoming more and more common. There's not necessarily an implication, but I would say it's important to make sure that the application is true to you. There is the issue that you could run in with using AI, that it's like generalized or it's not using your specific examples. I definitely wouldn't depend on AI to do your application at the end of the day. Obviously, if you want to use it to like maybe tailor your wording or something like that, that's absolutely fine and up to you. There's no like rules against it. But the best part of the application is knowing this person is motivated, they want to be here, why they want to be here. And in my opinion, no one can express that better than the person themselves. So make sure there's a balance and your application is reflecting you truly, as you will be asked about your application specifically in your interview. So make sure that this is your own wording and your own experiences. Okay. Are the number of offers roughly the same round 1 to round 4, or does it vary? It varies slightly. Round 4 is the biggest stage that we have. So naturally, there is a lot of offers that go out then because we have more applicants at that stage. But otherwise, they're not dependent on the round. It's more dependent on who comes through and when. So if we have completely really strong candidates in round 1, more offers will be given. If we had round 1 where a lot of the candidates who applied just weren't suitable for the program, then less offers would be given. So it's more dependent on what we get through and who we get through than it is on the round. They're not set in stone that way. Hopefully that makes sense. Are there any information tours when you want to visit the university outside of the open day? So we do have campus tours. You can find the link to book a campus tour or request a campus tour on the website. A member of the recruitment and admissions team, if we're available, will take you around the school, and we're happy to sit down with you after the tour and go through any questions that you may have. So when you book this online, you will be requested to put your CV through as well, so we can make sure that you're suitable for the program, and we will contact you and confirm when and if this is something we're able to offer to you. I am an international student and planning to visit London soon. Would it be worth visiting campus? Absolutely. I think if you are considering coming to Oxford and you want to do your MBA here, or you're at least thinking about doing your MBA here, I would always recommend people to come and see the school in person, meet us in person, and have that like first-hand experience of what it's like to be here. This is completely dependent on you. Some people don't feel like they need that, but I would definitely recommend, if you are able to and you're free to, there's no downside to coming and visiting us. Is there an application fee waiver for applying to the Oxford MBA Master's Programme? So countries that are listed on the World Bank's low income list, the list is on our website on the FAQs page, then you can request a fee waiver. You can actually, on the application, there's a box that you can tick. If you're from one of these countries, it will come up with a waiver page for you, so you can use that waiver. Otherwise, we don't offer waivers for applying to the programme. After completing the MBA, does Oxford provide support for international students in obtaining a work visa? We have a visa team here at the school, so any questions that you have, whether it's just before you come, during your visa application, or when you're here, you can reach out to the visa team and they will be able to help you and answer questions that you may have regarding this. Is there somewhere we can see term dates for the program? I think we have general dates on our website. I'm not sure what you mean exactly. Do you mean like for the term within the year, when each term starts and ends, or whether you mean generally when the program starts, when the program ends? If you want specific dates, please email us and we'll be able to provide you with those. Semester dates. Yes, these might change slightly each year. So I wouldn't go on, if you're applying this year to start next year, it might not be the same. Generally, they're around the same. You'll start late September, finish around Christmas, come back in January, finish around Easter, come back after Easter, finish around the end of May is normally when the summer term starts. But this can change slightly each year by week. So I wouldn't go specifically on the dates that there are. For the internship term, is it the same term as international elective, or can you do both? They're not at the same time. The international elective is usually in the second term, and the internship term for credit is in the long vacation, so that's over summer. International student here, if we are to start in 2026, when should we arrive and get settled, August or earlier? There is a minimum amount of time. 1 month, so sorry, I'm just checking with my colleague. 1 month before you start the program is when you're actually allowed to come to come to Oxford or come to the UK. When you decide to do this, it's completely up to you. Some people come just a couple of days before launch. Some people like to come early September to make sure their accommodation is sorted. So I would say the majority of people probably come like the last week of August, first week of September. Due to work commitments, some people can't come that early, so it's completely dependent on you. But if you can, I would recommend a couple of weeks beforehand. Can I submit my IELTS certificate later after I pass the interview and being given an offer with a condition? If you don't have the IELTS test, you can't be offered an interview. This is a condition to, if you haven't got a waiver, you need to have an English language test as a complete application to be able to apply. So this needs to be done at application stage. Hopefully that answers that question. Is it possible to be placed on hold after applying in a specific round, or will applicants receive a final decision by the notification date? For example, for round one, will everyone get a clear answer by Friday the 17th? Yes, everyone from round one, they are set days. So for round one, yes, everyone will get an answer on Friday the 17th of October. I'm not too sure what you mean by on hold, unless you mean like a waiting list. We do sometimes have a waiting list for round 5, but this is not something that we do for the other rounds, and you'll find out whether you're admitted or not on that date. Is there a guide on how to choose a college? We don't have a guide necessarily. Colleges it will be a part of your experience, but I think it's worth noting that MBAs, you're really busy, so you won't be at your college as much as say the undergraduate students are. I think it's worth reaching out to current students and alumni and speaking about how they chose their college, their experiences with their college, and what's important to you. So is it proximity to the business school? Do you want to be close to the business school? Do you want to be with a mix of undergraduates as well as graduates? Do you want to be at a college that takes a lot of MBAs, or one that you'll be able to network with more people because they don't take as many MBAs? This is very dependent on what it is that you want. With the college, you only get one choice with your college. So you put forward a choice, but it's not guaranteed that you'll necessarily get that college place. You will be randomly selected for another college otherwise, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. Everyone gets a college. Everyone can experience other colleges by going as +1s to people that are in a different college. So there's a lot about the college conversation. If you have some specific questions, email us and we'll do our best to help. But it is really dependent on what's important to you when choosing your college. My overall IELTS score meets the requirement, but some of my individual scores don't. Will that still be accepted? There are minimums on the individual scores, so you need to meet these minimums on the overall score and the individuals. So if that's your situation, it sounds as if like you will need to retake the test. Unfortunately, with IELTS, we don't take the one skill retake, so you will need to retake the whole test. Okay, so this seems to be the end. If anyone's got any more questions, I'll wait a minute or so to see if any come through. Otherwise, we will end shortly. Are the electives the same every year, or might there be a change? Generally speaking, they're similar, but they are subject to change. Some of them do change year on year. There are some that you can expect that we run every year that are popular and always seem to be running, but they are subject to slight changes. Yes. I have given IELTS on March 24. Is it valid if I'm? Yes, absolutely. Your IELTS should last 2 years. So that's absolutely fine. You would be fine until March 2026. What are some characteristics of the best applications you have seen? Oh, that's a good question. I think this is really dependent on what the person's doing and what they're looking to do afterwards. I think the best applications are always very clear on why Oxford is the right place for them. They're well researched on the application, on the program itself, so the application shows this. So they might maybe refer to clubs and societies and extracurriculars that they're interested in taking and why. I think if you use your personal statement well, that comes across really well to explain what it is about the MBA that motivates you, how you will become the person that you are, whatever it is. But generally speaking, it's quite difficult to answer that question because maybe someone who's got a really, really good application who's maybe finance based and wants to accelerate in finance will look completely different to someone who wants to pivot career and pivot geography for whatever reason it is. So this really depends. But if you've got questions about your own application and your own profile, email us and we'll do the best to kind of guide you on what your application will need to look like to stand out. Okay, I think that is all. If you do have any questions after today, email us again on oxfordmba@sbs.ox.ac.uk and we will be able to answer. There's one more question, 1 second. I have a question regarding GRE score. Will submission of unofficial scorecard by round deadline make my application complete for admission? Yes. So when it comes to your GRE or GMAT score, there's 2 parts that you need to do. You need to upload your unofficial score transcript or certificate, a screenshot maybe on GMAT is quite popular, or if you've got a downloadable copy, and upload that to your application. As well as that, you need to put our institution into either ETS or GMAT so we can verify them online. I'm just going to repeat that as this is a question we get a lot. So your unofficial score needs to be uploaded to the application and you need to add the institution online so that we can verify the score report that we can see. Hopefully that's clear. Okay, thank you everyone. Some really good questions. We look forward to seeing any applications that are coming through in this current cycle. And we're always open to having calls with people. We're on the road a lot, so we will be in a lot of different countries throughout the year to meet with people in person. So keep an eye out on our events page for open days, for in-country experiences, and more webinars like this that will be coming soon for questions. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.